Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming to this morning to celebrate the Siyum with us. I want to take this opportunity, of course, to thank our teacher, our Rabbi Weisblum. This has been a long tractate. Tractate Nedarim is 91 pages. Took us about 3 months to complete it. Every morning at 6 a.m. Big Yishar Koach to Gilbert Gonzalez and Catherine Davidson for being here almost every single day, and David Cohen as well for studying daily with us on this very interesting tractate. Tractate Nedarim, as its name might imply, deals with Nedarim or vows. It starts out by talking about is devoted to the laws of the Neder vow, one of a group of binding declarations that can be made by a person to which the Torah assigns validity and legal consequences. Although the laws of the Neder vow apply to men as well as women, Tractate Nedarim is included in Seder Nashim, the order for women, because there are aspects of the law that apply specifically to women, namely that a father or husband can, in many instances, revoke some of the daughters or the wives' vows. We move on to learn a little bit about the various different kinds of neders that they are, and we also learn about the difference between a neder, a vow, and a shavua, a oath, and that basically, in the case of a neder, it prohibits a specific object, while a shavua or shavuot oaths constrains or obligates a person. That's the difference between them. So we also learned about how a neder is actually affected and how it has to be verbalized and the way it has to be verbalized and what has to be included with it in order to make it an effective neder. Generally, if you think about it, we take vows very, very seriously. And when you make a neder, we're expected to do everything within our power to follow through and to meet the outline of the vow that we made. It's specifically mentioned in Torah how important it is when you make a neder. So one of the things that we learn is we should try to avoid making any sort of neder if at all possible, or any sort of vow or oath if at all possible. We often hear people talk about it, and they'll often say "beli neder" without making a vow, so that they didn't verbalize it clearly that it's a vow. We also learned about the verbalization has to include consequences and so forth, and then we move on, and the second part deals mostly with how we can either be released from vows that we might make, and then it moves on to, as we mentioned earlier, what a father or husband, what rights they have to revoke vows that are made either by a wife or a daughter. And that completes the tractate. It starts out with a Mishnah that says Kol Kinuye Nedarim. It says all equivalent terms from Nedarim, and it goes into several different discussions of the various different terms that are used, which is interesting. We coming up with the new year, and we'll all be here for Yom Kippur and Kol Nidre night, and we get a pretty good idea of the different names that we write there during the Kol Nidre prayer, of the various different names that there are that are used for vows, oaths, and so forth. Again, I just want to take this opportunity to thank my teacher, my Rabbi Weisblum, Moshe P, for not only this tractate, but we're about halfway through the entire Shas right now. We've been doing this for almost 4 years, and it is 4 years, right? Yes, it is 4 years. So, and I just want to thank him for being here every morning, 6 a.m. We get a break on Sunday, 7 a.m. But and studying every day, and learned so much from the various tractates that we've studied up until this point. And again, I want to thank all of my fellow students for participating with us. We have a lot of people that view it on YouTube as well. And I keep reminding the rabbi that it's not only a class of 4 or 5 students, but a class of about 20 or 30, which is what we get on a regular basis, just viewing it worldwide. So again, thank you all, and Yishar Koach to the rabbi and all of my fellow students.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome all our members and guests, and it's a privilege to do the Siyum in memory of Paul's father, Levi and Mordecai, and I'd like to wish a big yasher koach to Rabbi Weisblum. And I don't think everybody realizes, but not only do you learn the Daf Yomi every morning, but the amount of preparation that goes into getting the Daf Yomi ready is hours and hours of preparation. And to David and Siyum for tirelessly putting it on YouTube night in, night out, day in, day out, working to record everything. I wish them a big yasher koach. Also to Gilbert Gonzalez, Catherine Davidson. And I wanted to just bring a point out which applies to daily life and applies to the holidays. It's always amazing to me how the tractate correlates with the daily life and correlates with the times coming up, with the halachos and coming up. And this week's parsha that we just read yesterday was Shoftim, Judges, and it talked about tzedek, tishvot, and we have to judge fairly and righteously. And on top, in correlation with that, there's a prayer coming up in the next few weeks, on Erev Rosh Hashanah, that we're going to say. It's called Tractate Nedarim. And basically what Tractate Nedarim does is, I'll read the explanation to you in the Art Scroll Siddur. It talks about the Torah permitting people to accept upon themselves personal obligations and prohibitions, and it gives an owner the right to forbid others to enjoy his property. And this undertaking is known as something called Shavuot Nedarim. And it's oaths and vows that must be carried out and have a force of a positive commandment, which is called Kachol Hayotei Mipiyasa. He shall do whatever he has uttered. And it's a violation if you don't carry it out of a negative commandment, Lo Yachal Dvaro, that he shouldn't desecrate his words. So these are so serious, these matters, if they don't carry them through, if they make a promise, that they're discussed in 3 tractates, which is, one of these is Nederim, which are doing the Siyum of today. The other one, there are 2 others, are Nazir and Shavuos. And I'll just give you just a quick snippet of the intricacy of what Nederim goes into. There's a Gemarrah on page 45b. It's Daf Mem Hey Amud Beis. It says, the Mishnah discusses the law that applies when a person is forbidden by Neder to derive benefit from his fellow. And that fellow owns property in partnership with one subject to the Neder or with others. And if partners in a courtyard each took a Neder prohibiting themselves to derive benefit from one another, they are both forbidden to enter the courtyard, since they would thereby derive benefit from one another. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, this one enters into his own portion and that one enters into his own portion. And there are, throughout this tractate, which we learned over a few months, it goes into so many different intricacies and nuances of Neder and Nedarim. So the Tractate Nedarim prayer goes on that a person's freely chosen wishes can have the force of Torah law. It's a striking indication of the sanctity that Hashem attaches to a person's word. Consequently, is considered a fearsome sin for one to violate his vows and oaths, and especially at the time that he's being judged, when Rosh Hashanah is coming up, the Day of Judgment. And if he goes into the Day of Judgment not revoking his vows, then he's being judged with those potential negative commandments. But the Torah provides a means for one to release himself from such obligations, and that's the prayer of Tractate Nedarim. Now, the court composed of 3 knowledgeable people has the authority to decide the oath or the vow was undertaken under a mistaken impression, and they may annul the obligation retroactively. And that ties into Shoftim, V'Shotrim, judges and courts that we just learned about this week's parsha. I had the privilege to have a conversation yesterday with Eli Weisblum, the rabbi's son, about Nevi'im on the way home from shul, and the different levels of judgeship, and it was an amazing conversation. I learned so much each time I speak with Eli, and I learned so much from this whole community. So the Torah, basically, the prayer of Tractate Nedarim gives the person, basically, it provides a means to release himself. But this is basically a very oversimplified explanation of the process of annulment. And the key is that the court has the retroactive power. And one of the pleas one can make to the court is that he regrets ever having undertaken the obligation as a vow or an oath. In order to free himself of the sin of such violations before being judged on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, they urge that one convene a court of at least 3 people. If you have 10, it's better to do it with 10. And the declaration makes it clear that this annulment only applies to vows for which the halacha permits annulments and for which there is halachically acceptable reason for doing so. And an annulment is valid only if the vows involve only oneself. However, if the vows were adopted for the sake of or involve someone else, they cannot be annulled without the consent of the other party. So you basically have to go to the other party. And it's also, if you analogize, if you're asking for forgiveness for somebody, forgiveness between a person and Hashem, he can ask Hashem for forgiveness. But if Ben Adam Lechavero, Hashem says, before I forgive you, you have to go to the other person and ask him for forgiveness before and Yom Kippur. So so basically vows for oneself, you can go do Hataras Nedarim, but if it's between you and another party, then you have to go up to that other party and basically get their consent to annul the vow. And to conclude, a second aspect of the annulment of vows is the concluding declaration. One makes the legal declaration that its future undertaking should not have the force of a vow or an oath. And while this does not free him from the obligation to keep his word, it does remove the severity and that attaches to formally proclaimed vows and oaths. And on this Yom Noram, I'd like to wish everybody a Shana Tova, a happy and a healthy New Year, and may we continue to learn from tractate to tractate and complete it at the Siyum in a few years. Thank you.
Okay, the last part of the tractate is said as follows. מהו דתימה והי דאמר לי דניחה לדלו לימוד ועל דתהיה באינטטה אלווי מי גנובים אינטקו בלחם סתרים ינעם כמש מלנט. We brought, if you watch the last shiur at 91, the Chatam Sofer, it said that mine, it's the implication of the Torah, that sometimes we bring the great Torah from others. We should make sure that we quote them and give them the credit for that. And the idea is, Mayim Gduvim Yimtaku, every time a person has a certain moment that he can dedicate to Torah, Yimtaku Velechem Sterim Minam, especially at this time before the high holiday. Adran Lach Vel Nadarim, Uslik Alam Masechet Nedarim, Adran Lach Masechet Nedarim, Vadrach Alam. We said that 3 times that we hope to revisit this tractate. Adran Lach Masechet Nedarim, Vadrach Alam, V'Tishem Lach Masechet Nedarim, V'Tishem Minar, V'Ba'alma Dei, V'Ba'alma De'atei. Adran Lach Masechet Nedarim, Vadrach Alam, Adran Lach Masechet Nedarim, V'Atach Alam, V'Tishem Lach Masechet Nedarim, V'Tishem Minar. لا בעלמא דין ולא בעלמא דעת, אדרן לך מסר נדרים ויודרך לנו, נתן לך מסר נדרים דעתך לנו, ונתשם לך מסר נדרים ונתשם מינן, לא בעלמא דין ולא בעלמא דעת, רצו מפניך לנו, והולכים לשתי תורתך ונתנו בעולם הזה, ותהי עמנו לעולם הבא. Here is the name of the 10 sons of Bar Papa, who is one of the interpretation. There are people who always reconcile disputation and bring peace. חנינה בר פאפה, רמי בר פאפה, נחמן בר פאפה, אחי בר פאפה, אבא מרי בר פאפה, Raf Ram Bar Papa, Rachish Bar Papa, Surchav Bar Papa, Ada Bar Papa, Dau Bar Papa. We ask God to sweeten the words of Torah and help us to continue the Torah in the future. ערב גם לנו דברי תחותך בפינו ופרד עמך בישראל, ונהיה כולם אנחנו מצלצנו מצלצל ישראל מצלצל עמך בישראל, כולם דרש מרחב ולבדור אותך לשמה, מאויבי תחכמני מצוותיך כלולה מעילי, יהי ליבי תמים בחוקיך למען לא אבוש, לעולם לא ישחק פקודיך כי בם חייתני, ברוך אתה אדוני למדני חוקיך, אמן, 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 סלע ואל. מודים אנחנו לפניך אדוני לאבותינו ששם לחלקנו וישבר את המדרש ושם לחלקנו וישבר קרנות. We thank God for being part of people who study Torah. שאנו משכימים והם משכימים, אנו משכימים דברי תורה ומשכימים דברים בתנים, אנו עמלים והם עמלים, אנו עמלים ומקבלים שכר והם עמלים ואינם מקבלים שכר, אנו רצים והם רצים, אנו רצים לחיי העולם הבא והם רצים לבאר שנאמר ואתה אלוהים תורידם לבאר שער אבל של ימים ומה לא יחצו עיניהם ואני אפתח בך. We ask God to help us to complete future study and complete the tractate. יהי רצון לפניך נא אלוהי כשם שעזרתני לסיים מסכת נדרים כן תעזרני להתחיל מסכת וספרים אחרים לסיים ללמוד ולמד לשמור ועשו וכן כל מתוכתך באהבה וזכות כל התנאים והאמוראים ותלמידי החכמים יעמוד לי וזרי שלא תאמרו שהתורה מפי מפי זרי וזרע זרי אדוני תתקן בי בהתהלכך תנחה אותך לשוך בך לשמור עליך והקיצות היית שיחך קיבי ובו ימיך תוסיף לך שנות חיים אורך ימים בימינם ושמאל עושר וכבוד אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן לברכתנו השלום יתגדל ויתקדש
ויתקדש לפני הבא והאומה ליהו עתיד
רצה כיתון לחיי עלמא,
לחיי עלמא,
ובני קרותיים ולשלם, ושכללה יחלק בגבה, ונלכה פולחנה, ונעבר, להתרי וימליך שבלי ומלכי, ויעצמך מוכן ומכל המשיך, אמן!
וכל בית ישראל בעולם ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. ואש נגרה במקום הרעה והמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתעלה שמי קדושה ויברך לאלה מכל כתב ושירתה וחוקתה ונחמתה ואמירן בירמה על ישראל והרחמן בירתיהם תלמידי תלמידיהם והקורבן לעצר סיורתה יגעת עדיין ובכל אתה ואתה יהי אור וכל שלם והאחים ובחיסת ורחמים וחיים אביכם ומזוני אביכם וכל כנה מקדם עבור ובשנה דהרה ולגרו אמן. יהי שלם הרב ונשמע וחיים טובים עלינו והכל ישראל ולגרו אמן. ועושה שלום ולגרו ויעשה ברחמיו שלום עלינו והכל ישראל ולגרו אמן. Thank you Paul and Tracy for the food.
Boyachem leshuloim malachai yeshuloim malachai